So today I want to talk about a passage from the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. And if that isn't enough, then it also comes highly recommended by Jimmy Fallon. And if you don't believe me, you can just Google Jimmy Fallon, Man's Search for Meaning. Anyway, what I want to read is a passage from the very beginning of the book. So very briefly, Viktor Frankl was a prisoner in the Auschwitz concentration camp, and he talks about his experiences there and many other things. But anyway, in the beginning, he's talking about how prisoners of the camp would get coupons for cigarettes, but almost always the prisoners would exchange these coupons for cigarettes for food because they didn't get enough food otherwise. Okay, so here goes. I'm going to read the paragraph. The privilege of actually smoking cigarettes was reserved for the capo, who had his assured quota of weekly coupons, or possibly for a prisoner who worked as a foreman in a warehouse or workshop, and received a few cigarettes in exchange for doing dangerous jobs. The only exceptions to this were those who had lost the will to live and wanted to enjoy their last days. Thus, when we saw a comrade smoking his own cigarettes, we knew he had given up faith in his strength to carry on, and once lost, the will to live seldom returned. Okay, so this is pretty powerful because what Frankl was seeing was something very ordinary in other circumstances, smoking a cigarette, but in that context of the concentration camp, it meant a lot. So a prisoner who was smoking a cigarette meant that he had a coupon that he could have used for food, which he didn't, because he didn't want to eat, because he didn't want to live. And this meant that very shortly he would die. Okay, so this is very intense. But I wanted to take the one point of these little actions that actually mean a lot. So a very mundane example, but sometimes I'm walking down the street with a piece of garbage, and instead of throwing it in the garbage bin, I'm really sorry, sometimes I throw it on the ground. And I ask myself, why do I do this sometimes? And it's because there's this voice inside that says, there's no point in doing otherwise. Okay, so yes, I mean, a lot of this comes down, this example and many other little actions that we all do, I mean, come down to human nature, this thing called laziness. But I would say that these little actions, well, they're very important. Just like for Viktor Frankl, he was able to tell a lot just from someone smoking a cigarette. They also reveal a lot about ourselves. And these little actions can make or break your happiness. So I would invite you to think about the little things you do because they're very important.